Hey, folks, how's it going on this Thursday morning? Hope everything's going fantastic for you. Hey, before we get started, I want to do our regular housekeeping. I want to make sure that you can see and hear me okay. So I just sent out a message in case you can't see or hear me. Let me know if I'm coming through all right. In the meantime, I hope you're having a great morning. I know it's just the beginning, but it's getting up toward Friday, right? We're getting close. All right, Hayden, looks like I'm coming through just fine. Fantastic. All right, well, we've got kind of a fun lecture for us today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that on over. Hey, looks like we've also got Aaron with us and Jeremy and Jaime. Fantabulous. So today we're talking about what is wealth. Now, remember, in these series, in these lectures, I should say, we're really looking at critical thinking and trying to figure out today through the lens of yesterday. And remember, critical thinking means looking at things that we just kind of live in and assume to be true and normal and assessing them, really examining them with a new lens, right? So remember when we started out, I told the story of the mother who was cutting the ends off the roast, and the little girl asked, "Mom, why are we cutting the ends off the roast?" "I don't know, it's what my mother always did." So they asked her mother. "I don't know, it's what my mother always did." So they asked their grandma. "I don't know, it's what my mother always did." And they finally asked the great great grandma, and she said, "Well, it's the only way I could get it to fit in my pan." So remember, the two things, the two aspects of that story is, first of all, they were doing something that they had no idea why they were doing it. And second, they learned that the criteria that brought about the practice in the first place had since changed. But since they forgot the criteria and they forgot the reason for the practice in the first place, it just kind of went on autopilot. And I maintain that a lot of our lives, I'm not saying you, I'm saying us, big collective, right? We live our lives on autopilot. And this class is all about kind of examining that. So, yes, we ask what feels like some pedantic questions like, what is wealth? But trust me, there's more to it than you might think. Okay. Hey, Timothy, great to have you. And Jason's with us. Great. Okay. So, you remember on Tuesday when I told you the story of borrowing eggs. And the assertion that I made is that borrowing eggs from your neighbor is, in fact, a very, very sophisticated business transaction. Okay, so she would borrow the egg, therefore, she got just in time inventory. She did not have to tie up her financial, monetary resources in inventory, and she didn't have to take up limited inventory space with something that she did not need, a huge inventory of eggs. Me, on the other hand, I got goodwill. I also had kind of this bank of goodwill growing, and eventually I got interest payments. Right? I could, every month or two, I would get a plate of cookies. Those were the interest payments. Hey, Joseph. So, a very sophisticated business transaction. And we also saw that the Sumerians and the nomads engaged in a very complex, sophisticated network of production and distribution, all without money. And I even went on to say that when it comes to bartering, a business transaction that does not involve money, we barter a ton, right? You use Google Docs, you have a free Google email account, you read the news, and you use streams like this for free. I mean, there's so much of what we experience on the internet. So much of it is free, but it's not free. We have bartered our personal information to get this, okay? And another thought, by the way, the very fact that you do assignments and so forth is a form of barter, because you're not getting money, you're getting points, which is a different kind of currency, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Hey, Ryan, great to have you. Okay, so that was the eggs, right? So that involved no money. And as I just reiterated, you do not need money to have sophisticated business transactions. You don't need it. All right. So let me ask you this. I'm going to take a couple of minutes for you to formulate an answer. What is money? What is it? What is money? Okay. So take a couple of minutes, formulate a response, and let's see what we come up with. Okay, let's come on back and see what we have got. All right. So, first of all, I see, oh, we have a whole bunch of comments coming in. Great. Let me make sure I track these so you guys get the awesome credit you deserve. So, first of all, Timothy says money is paper that society has placed value on through social contracts, used for bartering. By the way, as I saw these comments come through, you guys really need to embrace the fact that you're sharp. You're very, very sharp, because quite often the responses I get are a little bit more plebeian, a little more soft, gooey center, right? You're really cutting through to the core of the question. So you're going to see that as we talk through these. So, Timothy, money is paper that society has placed value on through social contracts. We're really going to see this a lot. It's just paper. And in fact, it's not even paper. I'll explain that in a moment. And yes, it has everything to do with social contracts. Money doesn't exist outside of the social contract. Now, Aaron keyed in on this as well. Oh, wrong button here. So Aaron says money is a mutually agreed upon placeholder of value that simplified the exchange of goods and services. Yes. Okay. He touched on a couple things there. Mutually agreed upon placeholder of value. He even put quotes around value. That's significant, okay? And he also said to simplify the exchange process. Absolutely. We're going to see that. So then we have Jared, a measurable medium between two parties acts as a form of profit. I like that. A measurable medium. How do you measure value? I don't know. Let's just make some crap up and count it. All right, dollars. That works. Timothy came back agreeing, like the way he put it. Yeah, totally. He was bang on, right? Ryan, so money is paper notes or metallic coins that have set value, right? Absolutely. But we're straying away from that, we're going to see. Jason, no, hold on. I'm getting lost here. Okay, Jared. Okay, no, Timothy, and then Ryan, Jason. Money gives you value of gold banks. Okay, so now Jason's on to something here, right? It used to be that the United States was on the gold standard, and the gold standard basically meant, dear U.S. citizen, I give you this dollar bill, and there is a dollar bill worth of gold sitting in Fort Knox or whatever, that backs up the value of this dollar. So you know this dollar has value because there's a piece of gold representing this dollar off in a vault. We're no longer on the gold standard. We haven't been on the gold standard since 1970s. Okay, so there is no gold set up somewhere that backs up the value. What backs up the value? We're going to explore that. Very good. Let's see. What? Oh, excuse me. I just banged the camera. Anything that people use to buy goods and services. Okay, very good. We're Jeremy, value place is one over an item. Yeah, the gold standard, right? So then we've got, right, Ryan, I got that, services. Hayden, credits with value that allow us to purchase, sell, absolutely. I believe the Knights Templar came up with the idea of banknotes. You know what? We're actually going to, you're not far off, Mason. There's actually a whole bunch of groups that actually came up with the idea of money at some point. The Knights Templar were one of those groups. The Chinese also came up with the idea of money. We're going to see that Marco Polo kind of discovered that and brought that up. So yeah, you're on to things. Okay. So you guys are sharp. Let's explore this a little bit. Okay. So, okay, Jeremy, last summer in my accounting class, hey, a past reference to another class, money has shifted from products to the current digital monetary currency that we are currently using. This is form of debit and credit and Bitcoin. We're totally going to touch on that. Very good. Very good. And that was a new contributor. Oh my gosh. It's like we're only a few minutes into the lecture and you guys are like totally on it. All right. So let's play with this. This is $1. Actually, it's not $1. It's a representation of $1 because it's a picture. All it is a piece of paper. It's just actually, it's not even a piece of paper. It has ink all over it, so it's not really of value as a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper with some denim, actually jean denim in it, and so forth, covered in ink. Not very valuable as a piece of paper for writing or anything like that. It's just a piece of paper. I have a whole bunch of paper right here. I have a whole lot more paper than that thing. Right? It's just a piece of paper. The Post-it note is just a piece of paper. However, as a piece of paper, the Post-it note is infinitely more valuable than the dollar. It's yellow, so when you write on it in black or blue, it really pops. That's why they're yellow, the original ones. It has that sticky stuff on the back that you can use over and over. You can write on it. And so Post-it notes are actually extraordinarily valuable as a piece of paper. but not as valuable as, say, a dollar, right? Well, why? Well, here's the thing. We don't even really use pieces of paper anymore for money, okay? Yeah, fabric. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Jeremy, the jeans, right? So here's the thing. Some of you are probably paid by direct deposit. All right, so you work and your employer, direct deposits funds into your account. And then many of us pay some of our bills by automatic withdrawal, right? So I like that, Aaron. Yeah, my desk is a testament to how valuable sticky notes are. Totally, right? Yeah, totally. I get you. Okay, so we pay our bills through automatic withdrawal. So just so you get it, an employer direct deposits money into a bank, and then automatic withdrawal takes the money out of the bank, and you never see it. And actually, they're not even transferring money. They're transferring ones and zeros. It's all digital. Okay? So now the reason that binary code works in ones and zeros is because switches in a computer is either on or off, 0 or 1, right? On or off. And any sequence of on or off in switches can then produce some sort of algorithms and output, things like that. It used to be these switches were tubes, right? But now the switches are just the position of molecules. So in other words, what your employer does is they push some buttons on a keyboard that changes the position of molecules in a server in Saskatchewan. And then the people that you're paying money to, they push some buttons, and that changes the position of molecules in that server. And now the positions of their molecules on their server changes. Where's the money? Where's the money? Now, Aaron here says these transactions are mutually agreed upon ledgers and banks and so forth. Absolutely. And they're moving about these ones and zeros, positions of electrons, molecules. There is no money. Money is a fiction. It's a complete fiction. Now, you guys already know this. You already pointed this out. Here's the idea, is that, all right, so what happens is, I'm going to come back to this. All right, so we're exchanging stuff and we're creating value, right? So we're exchanging horses for cattle. We're exchanging, this for that, bartering and so forth. The Code of Hammurabi allows us to expand beyond our immediate relationship. So we can now exchange with people with whom we do not have, a standard relationship. Thing is, and you guys already pointed this out, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Thing is, how do you measure the value created by all these exchanges? Because remember, each time you exchange, you create value, all right? I don't need the pottery. You can use the pottery to expand your network. You don't need the glass. I can use the glass to make glaze for my pottery. So each time we exchange something, we create value. How do you measure that? And then furthermore, how do you take that value and transfer it somewhere else universally? Use it, spend it, right? So for example, with my friend, I can go ahead and create value in borrowing eggs, but I can't go to Walmart and say, hey, listen, so I have this bank of goodwill built up with my neighbor because she borrows eggs and so forth. That bank of goodwill is worth something. I'll tell you what, if you let me take this loaf of bread, I will let her know that I have transferred the goodwill that I've banked up over to you, so then she can come back and give you something. Walmart would be like, I don't even know what you're talking about, man. Get out of my face, okay? So we needed some way to do this. Well, money was that way. It is just a fiction, an abstraction, a symbol that we invented to represent this thing called value, right? And as you know, hold on, I'm sorry. So somebody put value in quotes. Here it was, Aaron put value in quotes, right? That's because what is value? How do you measure it? Will make up this measurement. Now, the thing is, it says right here, whatever, legal tender. Okay, here it is. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private and so forth, backed up by the government, whatever. The only thing that keeps a dollar valuable is we all agree it's valuable. That's it. That's it. So, here's if you want to listen to it later, here's a report from NPR about how Venezuela's currency collapsed and how it became worthless. The picture up above is not from Venezuela, from somewhere else. This dude is carrying a wheelbarrow of money, of cash, to go buy groceries for his family. All right? Dead serious, not making that up. So, the only thing that keeps money strong and valuable is when we agree that it's strong and valuable. It is a beautiful lie that we have told ourselves that works really, really, really well. But it's a house of cards. Now, before you go off and think, well, Lon is just being a weirdo. Oh, actually, there's one more story I want to tell you. Then I'll tell you, we'll reference this to somebody who knows what they're talking about. I want to tell you a story about a check. You might recognize these. I don't know who writes checks anymore, right? I don't know. But it used to be this was the only way that you could really, transfer money, right? Jeremy, this happens to 2003. We picked the money to burn to make first fires at checkpoints. Interesting. What an interesting real world example. I'm going to give that one a real world example. That's great. Okay, so all the references down there at the bottom are references that support what I'm about to say, okay? But this is a true story. So I'm a young college student, just like you dudes, right? So I'm a young college student, I'm married, and I am poor as dirt. I am freaking poor as dirt. And I got to pay my bills. Well, I run out of checks, and back then you really needed checks to pay your bills. Well, you couldn't just go to the bank and get checks. You had to buy checks. And, here's the thing. The idea that I had to buy checks to send money to somebody, I could not abide that. I could not afford to buy the checks I needed to pay my bills, right? So I said, screw it. Well, I had heard that all you need to do is take a piece of paper or any writing thing. There's been a lot of urban myths around this, but we'll just stick with a piece of paper. All you need is a piece of paper, and you just write out, pay to the order of electrical company $100, and put your account number and sign the piece of paper. You don't need a check, okay? So I did it. I went to I had a computer back then, right? It was the first Mac, and I printed out some checks. I designed the check, and I wrote out a whole bunch of checks to a whole bunch of companies, right? Really interesting. There were two responses. One response was, we can't accept this. And one even called me in and said, we can't accept this, you're past due, so on and so forth, right? And I would try to explain to them that, no, I could do this, this was legal, and I would show them, I don't care, right? Well, the other response was, thank you very much for the check, and they cashed it. It's totally legal. It's totally fine. Okay, so why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this because some people had faith in the check and they cashed it and they got their money. Some people did not have faith in this homemade check. They did not cash it. Okay? What that means is the value of my check was only as good as the faith that the company had in that piece of paper. Okay. So when I say that it's, I could tell them all day long, this is backed up by my bank. There's money in it right now. Go in and cash it. If they didn't have faith in that, they wouldn't do it. Okay. So, this is an interesting report from an NPR interview with somebody who prints money for the government. Okay. Monetary system. I forget who it is. Four sections I want to read here because he backs up everything that we're talking about here. In a sense, the point is that the dollar bill is just representation of money. They aren't actually the money itself. The US dollar holds its value because people around the world agree it holds value. Money is about faith and relationships and has little to do with paper, Lonergan says. One thing that's very clear about it is that the value of money is not a physical thing, he says. Physical things can represent the money in a sense, but that isn't what it is. According to him, money can't really be defined, but has properties. It is a form of payment and relies a lot on people using it. I could invent a language, and that's a great language, but because nobody else speaks it, it has no value, he says. And to some extent, the usefulness of a language is directly proportional or is linked to the number of people. For more people that understand it and use it, the even more useful it is. And this is also true of currencies. Money relies on the cooperation of society members to uphold its value. Otherwise, the system collapses. It's a house of cards. Okay? So Jeremy says, I have $1 million Iraqi dollars that are as valuable as toilet paper. Yeah, right? It's crazy. And you know what? Because I'm seeing these discussions going on, yeah, we're totally going to bring it up to 10 twice, baby. That's right. You've got 10 awesome comments, 10 contributors. Let's keep it going. You know what happens. You see it happening in your points. Okay. So this is really, really fascinating to me, right? Because yeah, Aaron, you're right. This is weird, fascinating stuff because it's one thing to like just sit around and smoke weed and go, dude, money isn't real and blow your mind, right? But no, money isn't real. And yet we need it to work. Oh my holy hell, do we need it to work? So it's a beautiful lie in a house of cards, but don't knock it over. We need this beautiful lie to continue. Okay, so that's money. The way I define money, just for grins and giggles, I define money as an abstraction of value, a universally accepted symbol of the idea of value. Walmart down the street recognizes this dollar bill or the ones and zeros in my debit card as representing value that they know they can then use somewhere else. Because it's universally accepted, we can transfer this value anywhere. It's a great invention. It's a great tool. It's amazing. Okay. Jeremy, stock market shares are also examples of a currency that is not as valuable as the market allows it to be or says it is. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Bitcoin in these lectures because, yeah, Bitcoin is a currency. And we're going to talk about the stock market because, yes, all these things apply to it. Absolutely. Okay. So now let's shift gears and talk about what is wealth. We have defined a business transaction. We have defined profit, and we have defined money. So let's shift gears in our heads, take a deep breath, and take a moment to answer the question. And I'm going to give you a couple minutes. What is wealth? It's not the same as a transaction. It's not the same as profit. It's not the same as money. Wealth is something different. What is wealth to you? So let's give that a try. Tell you what, guys, this is good. I'm going to go ahead and zoom up here a little bit as I read these. I love seeing these come in because, yeah, you're on the mark, right? As a matter of fact, so I'm going to come back up here. I have to scroll up. I love it when I need to scroll up because that means we have lots of good stuff coming in, right? By the way, let's see here. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find a comment. So by the way, Ryan said something that made me think, oh wow, that's a great real world example. So I'm going to give that a real world example. Uh-oh, what just happened? I don't know if you can still folks, I don't know if you can hear me or see me, but my system just went out over on this end. So I'm going to try to come back in and see what happens. Okay. So let me see if I'm still here. Okay, I apologize. I need to find out, is this still running? So do me a favor. Oh, you can see it, still see and hear me and all that. I really apologize, guys. My screen went blank and I had to open YouTube back up and so forth. Freaked me out. Okay, so let's here I am trying to make this real. Okay, so let's read some of these. So we've got you know, Timothy said personal accumulated value. I love that because it's accumulated value. He didn't say stuff. right? He didn't say, things. He said value. And we all value things in different ways. He even goes on to say that it's perception, right? Absolutely. And then Jeremy says, the stuff I buy, right? Just kidding. I get that, right? It's the items or experiences you value over time. So yes, right. There's this movie out there called The 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas. It was panned, but I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. I love that movie. I watch it all the time. And at one point, this great Viking, warrior is about to die. He's been poisoned. He's been stabbed. He's moments from dying. And he looks over at this Muslim who's been fighting with him. And this Muslim knows how to write. He knows how to draw sounds. And he says, a man might be considered wealthy if somebody were to write the story of his deeds. And the Muslim, who's totally cool and doesn't want to shame the guy, says, yes, a man might be considered wealthy indeed. Such a man might be considered wealthy indeed. And so that's his kind of cool way of saying, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to shame you by acknowledging that you asked for it. I'm going to do it, though. That's wealth to a dying person. I love that line. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. So, yeah, in real estate class, okay, another lecture, right? In real estate class, it was all about property. I'm telling you, Mario, there's power to that, okay? In a future lecture, we're going to talk about how real that truly is, okay? Very good. Wealth is the accumulation of value, says Aaron, excess of perceived needs. Oh, I like that, dovetailing on to what Timothy said. So, all right, what you're saying, Aaron, is, all right, I have certain needs that need to be met. And as soon as I accumulate whatever I need to meet those needs, anything in excess of that is wealth, discretionary wealth. I like that. That's a good idea, a good point. All things that have a monetary value or exchange value, says Joseph, Timothy, all right, and then Rain. Wealth is the accumulation of money or physical assets that make me happy and therefore I value them. Or someday it can be measured in love and happiness. Okay, very good. Way to save that one, Ryan. So, yeah, material assets can be wealth, but it's also the happiness we feel, the experiences we have, the relationships that we have make us wealthy, right? This is good. Perception is great. Your video screen popped. Oh, okay. All right. Now we're back into the weird stuff of what happened, right? Okay. Very good. Very good. So let me come back over here. I heard another reference. I also heard a couple of, a couple of good real world examples. All right. Very, very good. So now one of the things that the reading talks about, and you guys hit this, right? You guys hit this. Oftentimes we get hung up on the idea of wealth as monetary. And many of you called out monetary as the root of wealth, but then you quickly said, but it goes beyond that. Love, relationships, happiness, things like that, as Ryan said. So here's the thing. And you already pointed out, it's perception. Different societies, different people perceive wealth in different ways. And since wealth is in the eyes of the beholder, it's not us to say whether or not something can be considered wealth or not. Okay? So, in the reading, though, one of the things that the author talks about is how Greeks and the Greeks perceived wealth. And focusing on that here for a moment, says and I'm going to go ahead and pull up a little marker, a highlighter. Okay, here we go. The ancients appreciated wealth as much as any modern society. Examine the history of Greece, and it's easy to get a feel for their fascination of wealth. However, it was not private wealth. Greeks were more interested in public wealth than private. Okay, so this is an interesting idea because what we're saying is There is private wealth, okay? So there's the things I have here that can actually help me earn a living, this camera, this microphone, and so forth. And then I have all my books behind me that I really enjoy. That's a psychological wealth, learning wealth, education, which I value. But these are all mine. Mine, 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 mine. All right. What the Greeks are saying is, no, the true wealth of a nation is what the nation provides as an infrastructure to its people. So, for instance, and by the way, since we are a democratic country that grew up in the world of Greek and Roman ideals of democracy, we practice this kind of wealth as well. Libraries, museums, national parks, K through 12, festivals, fairs, parades, all this sort of stuff, national archives. These are things that we as a community have said, these are the hallmarks of a wealthy, learned, prosperous country. And so you, in fact, I just want to take library, for example. I would hazard to guess, I might be wrong, so I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying, I would hazard to guess that many of us do not fully appreciate what the library has for us. If you think of the library as a place where there's books on the shelves, you haven't been to the library lately. And in fact, you don't even need to go to the library. You can go online. And the access to services and materials and software and so forth that you have for free as a library card holder is extraordinary. You want to learn a language? Great. Rosetta Stone is there. You want to learn some tech stuff? Great. Lynda.com is there. All for free, right? So this is what a country says defines wealth, is an educated, workforce. Jeremy, we still embrace this idea as Americans. We value our freedoms. Don't believe me? There are millions coming each year, right? Yeah, no, this is just so you know, I've lived all over the world, okay? I speak 3 languages. I've lived in 5 countries. I have worked in 16. I grew up in England and France as well as the United States. I love the world. I'm a global citizen, but America rocks. I know we have our troubles. I know we have our issues, but this place is awesome. And yes, there's a reason why we are so rich in immigrants, because they see this and they say, this is where I want to raise my family. And I'm like, you betcha. Come on over. Okay. All right. Yeah, USA. I'll give it to you. Yes, research scholarly documents. This is what defines wealth. And so, right now, you are in school because you want to further your education. You want to add to your marketability. You want to add value to companies so that they add value to your bank account. You want them to shift their molecules, ones and zeros, to your molecules, ones and zeros. Now, you want this for more money, but you want this because you want to have peace of mind. You want to have job security. You want to have flexibility. You want to have retirement and so forth. All these things, this peace of mind is a strong sense of wealth. Okay, very good. All right. Wealth is also power and influence. Okay. This, I can't pull it up because it's New York Times. If I pull up this website, I'll get sued by the New York Times. But oh my heck, you really ought to look this up from the New York Times. It is just extraordinary. It really goes to show how wealth of this was in the 2016 election, just 158 families out of millions and millions and millions of families in the U.S., provided nearly half the money to capture the White House. By the way, this is both Republican and Democrat side, all right? It breaks it all down in this website. But let me reiterate this. This means 158 households out of millions and millions of households gave nearly half the money to the political campaigns for the presidency on both sides of the aisle. That is some mega influence. Now, I want to be clear, this is money, right? Because they gave money. But let's face it, wealth provides us a great deal of influence. We're going to talk about this more in this lecture series, but wealth kind of creates this cult of personality, if you will. When you meet somebody who's wealthy, they bring with them a lot of assumptions that they offer you, and we accept them happily. We assume that they're smart, they're hardworking, they're savvy, they're successful, they know what they're doing. They have the inside track and all that sort of stuff, because otherwise, why would they be so wealthy? And since they're smart and successful and hardworking and savvy and networked and have the inside track and all that, I want to be associated with you because you can give me those things that I want to be wealthy myself. It comes with a great deal of power and influence. Okay. Timothy, this is the best representation I've ever seen showing the breakdown of wealth in the U.S. Timothy, if you're referring to the website, yeah, I recommend you all pull that up. It's an extraordinary sort of interactive animation. Okay. Now, the thing is, though, we here, actually everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, I suspect that most people in the world have a complicated relationship with wealth. Okay. Here's the thing. We covet it. We strive after it. We work our asses off for it. You're working for it right now. You are working right now to increase your wealth, and you're working hard. Okay. You need to be recognized and respected for that. We really strive after wealth, and yet we kind of distrust it. We distrust it because along the lines, let's see. Oh, yeah, you're right, Timothy. Just do 9:17:10. 9:17:10. Timothy just asked, in case you weren't looking at the comments, what do we need to email today? Because we hit 10 twice, baby. Just email me 9:17:10. Okay. Thank you for reminding me, Timothy. I appreciate that. Okay. So we have a complicated relationship with wealth, and that's because we don't know whether or not to trust it. We really want to because we want it and we aspire to it. And just like you are right now, we're working hard toward it. On the other hand, with wealth comes corruption. If, power and influence corrupts, if a little power corrupts a little, then absolute power corrupts absolutely, and so forth. So here, I'll write it down. We're going to do 9:17:10. You just email me that bad boy and that'll work. Okay. So the story of the Ring of Gyges is kind of an exploration of our relationship of wealth. Here's the story. Okay. The story is this guy named Gyges found a ring. It wasn't a Batman ring, so it wasn't nearly as cool as mine, but it was still a ring that whenever he put on, okay, he became invisible. Now, we're not just talking about the one ring to rule them all that was thrown into the fires of Mordor, right? We are talking about invisible from consequences. So what this means is that Gyges, whenever he had put on this ring that was not as cool as mine, and he would become invisible, not just to the eye, but he would be immune from consequences of his actions. And therefore, he went off and did a whole bunch of really nasty crap, man. I mean, he did some awful stuff, right? Because no consequences. And the story really kind of explores this idea. Okay, you're right, Jeremy, actually. Green Lantern. And yeah, you know what? Green Lantern, that counts. There it goes again. Oh my gosh, it just did it again. I'm just going to come back here to YouTube. I'm going to assume It's still coming through. I'm going to go to the go live. Okay, I'm counting Green Lantern as a real world example because it's my lecture and I can do that. Okay, so, well, now this whole idea of, how do we respond if we are free of consequences is connected with wealth, because wealth can, in fact, shield us from a lot of consequences. And so the question that this story asks is, are we good people because we know that if we do something bad, there will be consequences? Or are we good people because we're just good people and we would do the right thing whether there were consequences or not? Now, I believe that here we go, over here, Lord of the Flies, the book you had to read in high school. It's actually a really good book. And The Walking Dead, they ask the very same question. They ask the question of, are we moral people by our very nature? And in the absence of consequences, we would still be moral? Or are we moral because we know that if we do something wrong, we're going to get punished? And how does wealth play into that, since wealth, in a way, shields us from consequences? So it's just something to explore as you practice critical thinking, as you look at the assignments, as you're asked to think about this. Think about it. Give me your thoughts. I've said it before. I'll say it again. There are no right answers. There are no wrong answers. There are only answers that you did not explore thoroughly in your head. But the answer you give me that you explore thoroughly is a great answer. Okay. Wedding rings. Hey, yeah. Papal rings. Super Bowl rings. None of them are as cool as mine. Okay. You know what? That totally should be. And let's see if my thing goes away again. That should be a couple of real world examples. Okay. Let's see. Plenty of rings that shield us from consequences. Yes. I love it. I love it. That's actually a good thought. Super Bowl ring shields us for consequences. Papal ring. Okay. So, let's come back over here. All right, we're gonna wrap up on 4 points here real quick. Yeah, we're still good on time. We're at 9:20, so now we're gonna shift a little bit. This is a little bit of a shift. Okay, I want to set this part up. We are going to talk about Gibbon and the fall of Rome. Remember, this is the book that the author is referencing. This was, for the longest time, the definitive work on the fall of Rome, written sometime in the 1700s or something. I don't know. No, 1960. Sorry, 1960. Okay, here's the thing. Good points. It's a definitive work. It's fascinating. It's interesting. It is not perfect, nor has it gone undisputed. A lot of solid scholars disagree with aspects of this. Okay, so yeah, Aaron. Yeah, it could be. It could be argued that it depends totally. So I am going to bring up 4 points that Gibbons brings up. We are not going to just accept or reject them. All right. We are going to explore them because a lot of very learned, solid scholars agree. A lot of scholars disagree. We're not here as a history lesson. Remember, not a history lesson. We are here to look at today through the lens of yesterday. And that's what we're going to do here. So Gibbons says, well, heck, why did Rome fall? Well, he really puts a lot of this on the advent of Christianity, the introduction of Christianity. So I don't want to get hung up on Christianity or religion. What I want to look at is the principles that Christianity brought in, and let's see how they play out today. We'll start with the first one as an example. Okay. So, abandon accumulation of wealth and instead turn to a pious life. Now, you know that religion often says, don't go seeking after wealth and riches, but instead gather up riches in heaven, right? So don't go off and try to become rich here. Instead, live a good, righteous, pious life here so that you can, retire in luxury up in heaven. And Gibbons felt that this actually had a detrimental effect to Rome. So, as it says here, first is the burden placed upon everyone through the commandments to avoid certain motives in their daily life. Thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet neighbor's wife, house, nor his manservant, or his maidservant, or ox, or his ass, or any of the, etc., etc. Humanity should be content with what it has. Any distraction from a pious life was considered a temptation and should be avoided. And he's saying, listen, Rome wasn't built on a pious life. Rome was built on conquest and conquering and expansion and wealth building and empire building. And so when you introduce this idea that you should steer away from empire building and wealth accumulation and instead turn toward the more spiritual, internal, sacred things of life, you are going to have a detrimental effect on, who we are, right? Jeremy, Buddhists believe deeply in this thought. Absolutely. They absolutely do. I'm going to count that as past lecture since you're referencing something from the past there. Now, the way I kind of look at this is many of you have not seen, and you really should, the movie Wall Street. It's an old movie by this point, 1987. Heck, that might be before some of you were even born. So, yeah, old movie. But Wall Street is an amazing movie. I invite you to look up this clip from the movie Wall Street called Greed is Good. It's a very fascinating clip because in this clip, Robert Gecko, that guy right there, now he's the antagonist. He's the bad guy. He's the evil guy. All right. And he is your quintessential Wall Street venture robber baron. Okay. He's the bad guy. But he makes this really interesting argument in this. He says, greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed focuses. Greed clarifies. Greed is what has pushed mankind forward since the dawn of time. Greed is what pulled us out of the primordial ooze and made us who we are today. We are never happy with our current state. We're never happy with our current state. You, my good friends, are in this class because you are not happy with your current state. You want more. And he says greed for lack of a better word, because he doesn't like the fact that greed has been demonized as a word. He says, listen, we're always stretching, we're always reaching, we're always wanting more. This is what makes us who we are. And why are we demonizing it? So just kind of a connection with what Gibbon was saying there in terms of demonizing expansion of the empire and instead saying you should be happy with what you have. Okay? Gibbon's second point, make religion the center of your life rather than state allegiance. So he said, traditional Roman shame meant failing the people. Romans did not, have the concept of sin until the change to Christianity. When oaths were taken by ancient Romans, they were oaths to sustain the state, the Roman Empire, right? Everything changed when new oaths have been taken in the name of the cross. Instead of civil law, Sacred law, divine law, became the basis of all contracts. And Gibbons says this is a problem because people are no longer loyal to the state. They are no longer aligned through oaths to the state. They are aligned with their religious precepts, and we don't control those. Okay? Well, now, the way I look at this today, or a way to look at it, is with capitalism, to whom are you loyal? Are you loyal to the country? Are you loyal to your own ambitions? Are you loyal to the world? Are you loyal to the environment? Are you loyal to future generations? To whom do you pay your allegiances? Now, the New York Times is probably going to sue me for this one, so I might get in trouble. But this is one of the greatest comics ever written in the course of humankind. Here it is, these people sitting around with this rubble in the background. Yes, the planet got destroyed, but for a beautiful moment in time, we created a lot of value for shareholders. Oh my gosh, I love that. Because in traditional capitalism, especially espoused by Maynard Friedman, whom we'll talk about later on, your one and only allegiance should be creating shareholder value. Companies are actually required to create shareholder value. That's why they're in business. And so all other considerations are tossed out the window. It's all about creating shareholder value. Now, we're going to talk about this in depth later on, the invisible hand, and how that's supposed to be okay. And in some cases, it is. But this comic really says, wow, isn't that interesting that we destroyed the planet, but for a brief moment, recreated a lot of shareholder value. And that was beautiful because that's where our allegiance is. Okay. Killing, forbidden. Okay. Third, another commandment was thou shalt not kill, right? Well, here's the thing. The Roman Empire built itself on killing, right? And, we don't have to go into depth on this one. This one's pretty clear cut. We still have today a conscientious objector alternative service opportunity for those who are drafted into the military, which has not happened in decades, but never say never, right? And so if you're drafted into the military, you can claim conscientious objector, right? But Gibbons was saying, well, the fact that we had so many conscientious objectors meant we couldn't go off and conquer new countries and new peoples and expand, and we couldn't defend the borders we had, and therefore the empire started to collapse. Here's the fourth and final part, though. A zealous allegiance to one ideology. All right? Here's the idea. The creation of a monopoly is always disastrous to free trade. This is true whether a monopoly, right? But in the case of religion, ancient Rome and Greece were religious, but they had never had anything monopolistic about sacred things. They had many civic gods, and there was no record of, any war or whatever. We're not going to go into that. But in any case, they accepted all religions, all gods, all kinds. It's all good, baby. We're an equal opportunity worshiper, right? However, Christianity came along and said, no, it's one way or the highway. There's only one God. All others are false. As a matter of fact, you should be punished for worshiping them. It's just this one way. And so this created a myopic view. Instead of embracing diversity and kind of this multiculturalism, it was a great homogenization of thought. Well, I believe that we today have a great homogenization of thought going on. All right, whether you're avidly public sector or private sector or Democrat or Republican, I maintain that, and this is a side thing, is that, we almost don't even live in a democratic republic. We live more in a parliamentary system. In a parliamentary system, you don't vote for individual candidates, you vote for a party, and then the party selects the candidates. Well, when we go into a voting booth and we just vote straight party ticket, that's a parliamentary system act. It's like, I don't care who's on the ticket. I'm just going to go ahead and vote for this particular party. That's a parliamentary system. And so, whether it's through religion or through business or through politics or through our culture or ideologies, when we become myopic in our thinking, we close ourselves off to all the myriad of wonderful possibilities that are out there. Gibbons felt that this is one of the things that brought down the empire. And I maintain that we should look at today through the lens of yesterday, just food for thought. You are completely 100% within your rights to disagree with me because I might change my mind in 20 minutes. I am that mercurial. So play with the idea in your responses. Let's see where it goes. Any and all ideas that are considered and backed up are absolutely valid. Let's see. Desmond T. Doss, conscientious objection, was awarded Medal of Valor. Yes, film Hacksaw Ridge, right? Really good example, right? Real world example there. Yeah, the guy's a freaking hero and saved, I don't know how many lives. But he was a conscientious objector. Well, you know what? Everybody has value, even those who aren't willing to kill. Imagine the irony, right? Yeah, great example. Okay, then, folks, that's it, right? Oh my gosh, okay, this was a longer one. We have 10 or so minutes to spare. So, as always, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick around in the comments for a few minutes just to see if there are any questions or if anything I can clarify. I will send out a notice here soon to talk about what readings to focus on for next week. So that'll be coming soon. Otherwise, a really good discussion today, guys. Check this out. You've got, oh gosh, we hit 10 and then 8 and 3. Very, very, very well done. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. So have a fantastic rest of the day. Send me that email and we'll be good. Have a good one.